Hello and welcome to episode 16. This was quite the session. We started off pretty poor at 1-3 and then the 2-5 table opened. I looked over, there was a spot open and it was a really good table. 8 players there, all of them have an open limp range. There's only 2 players that, I know one of them's a reg and the other one I was kind of unsure of, but we'll get into that later. I'm enjoying myself one of these Olays. They're amazing. Sponsor me. So let's get into the hand. We have ace 10 off here facing a low jack limp. We're definitely going to raise this up to $15 and we only get one caller on the button. So heads up to a flop which comes down ace, ace, queen, 2 diamonds. What a start. Going to start with a small bet here, $10, and the button makes the call. Off to a turn, which isn't okay. This is okay. It's 4 diamonds. We pick up a flush draw. Makes our hand a little bit weaker though, so I think this here we can definitely check. Our hand's very strong. We could bet 2 because we can definitely call a raise, but either is fine. I'd elect to check, and button bets 20. Could raise, could call. Raising just seems a little bit weird though, so I make the call. We're off to a river, which is pretty safe. Jack of hearts doesn't change much. Check it over to him, and he bets again, pretty small, $40. I think raising's a bit too thin here, so we just toss in the call, and unfortunately, he's got the king 10 off for the rivered straight, so this one's not going to go our way. Alright, in this next hand we have pocket jacks, 4th best hand in Hold'em. Button straddles live, small blind has completed, and it folds to us in the hijack. We are going to raise this up to $25. The button calls, and so does the small blind, and so we are 3 ways to a flop of king 8-7 rainbow. An okay flop, pretty good for our range, but not great for our hands, so we're just going to check this one back. Button pretty quickly bets $40. Small blind folds, and nothing to do here but call. Off to a turn, which is a 7 of diamonds. Pretty good card. We check it over to him, and he checks it back. So, off to a river, which is the 5 of clubs. Like 6-9 gets there, but I'm not too worried about that, as I reckon it bets the turn. I check it over to him, and he really quickly bets $60. But just something, the way he did it, the way he put the chips in just felt weird. But the dude is also stoned out of his fucking mind, so that might play into it. And I never use live reads, but I don't know, just something just looked wrong in this one. And I'm a bit curious, so I toss in the call, and he shows 8-7 off for the full house. This is why I don't use live reads. So we're not going to win that one. Alright, we've got pocket 10s. We are getting a lot of playable hands this session. It's like, 3-4 hands in orbit, which is fantastic. Cutoff is raised to 10. He's a looser player. Button, the short stack, has called with $10. We got pocket 10s. We're definitely going to be raising this up, so I make it 45. Cutoff pretty quickly folds, and button announces all in. We are happy to call this off. So we do so. Flop is ace, ace, queen. Not great. 5 of clubs and 6 of spades. It doesn't matter because our opponent was trapping pocket kings. So we're going to lose a 3rd one in a row. That's all right. Alright, this is our final hand of 1-3. We've got to win 1 before we move over to 2-5. I'm on the button and I raise this up to $10. I've actually just recently learned that the button open sizes in modern times have actually changed from a very small sizing because using a large range, more hands means smaller sizing, to actually using a larger sizing because you are guaranteed to play in position. It's something I'm going to study a bit more and review later. But as of right now, my strategy is small size with large hands. So ace-7 suited, definitely going to suit that. We raise up to $10. Small blind calls, and so does a big blind. We're 3 ways to a flop of ace-6-4 with 2 spades. Pretty nice flop, but our hand isn't strong enough to bet 3 streets, so I generally like taking the flop off. I really like those check bet lines with value and some really weak bluffs. So checks over to us. We're going to check this one back. Off to a turn, which is a 4 of clubs. Not my favorite card, but they both check it over to me again, and I'm going to start building this pot. Bet $15, a little bit more than my usual sizing, just because the small blind player is a little bit loose. So he does make the call, and big blind gets out the way. Off to a beautiful river, which is a 7 of diamonds. We now beat all other aces. He checks it over to us, and since this player does like to call a lot, we are going to size up here. We make it $100 to go, and he very quickly calls, so we are a little bit worried, but we toss our hand, we show our hand, and he mucks. So we are going to take down our first 1-3 win. Alright, we've moved up to the middle leagues here. I've been a little bit card dead. I think I've been here about 45 minutes, haven't really played a hand. And then we get aces. under the gun. Raise it up to $20. It folds to middle position. Guys, this is the best feeling in the world. He 3-bets us to $70. Amazing. Even better is when it folds around to the big blind. Big blind overcalls for 70. I really struggled with what size to use now. I was going to go something like 180, I think, versus middle position. 40, yeah, like 175, 180 versus middle position. But now with a big blind in there, it's getting a little bit tough to pick a sizing. So I went with 200 here, which I think is small enough that players can still call or fold. It puts a lot of their hands into a tough spot. Middle position does call, and then big blind folds. So we're off to a flop, which is okay. Ace 7-4. So we flopped like top set in the nuts, but it's going to make it really hard for us to get paid here. So now looking at this size, I'm with 347 behind. I really like a very, 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 very small sizing here with all my hands. Like if I'm bluffing here with if I 4-bet with pocket jacks pre-flop, and I get a hand like queens to fold here with like a tiny bet, that's a huge win. So I do go ahead and bet $85. He doesn't think for too long and just jams all in. And this is another reason why I love this small bet sizing, is because players in 3 or 4 bet pots, they just want to get the hand over with. You know, it's quite a bit of pressure to be dealing with this much money in the middle. If you hit something, you just want to go with it, get the hand over with. But now facing this, right, I can fold my kings, queens, jacks versus this player. I can probably fold my wheel ace bluffs, like my ace 5 suited, and I'd probably just have to call off with like ace jack suited plus. So he goes all in. Obviously we call. Turn is the 10 of spades. My opponent here has ace king of spades, so it's a sweat. And river, 9 of clubs. So we are going to hold with the aces and scoop this over $1,000 pot. Very unlucky in my opponent's shoes here. Alright, so this hand is against someone who I'm pretty sure they're a reg. They pretty much know everyone in the casino. They said hi to everyone, the pit bosses, other players walking by. So I assume they play quite a bit. He's a younger kid, probably mid-20s, and he bought in for the max 1500. So my assumption here is that he's a winning reg, but he's got varying raise sizes depending on his hand strength, and he does limp a lot. So I think he's more of a live player that just learned through lots of volume, and I think he does play full-time for a living. I don't think he does much studying. But he's opened this up to $30, which is the largest raise size I've seen him use. The second largest was $25, and he had ace king once, and the other time was pocket jacks, I think. I think it's jacks or queens. So this $30 feels very strong. Like I'm thinking like kings or aces, and it folds to us with ace queen off in the big blind. But it just feels too tight to fold ace queen, even though I think his range is really tight here. I probably should fold this, you know, given the read. But I go ahead and call, and we get a pretty good flop. Queen, jack, 7. So he does have kings or aces. We're going to lose a decent chunk here. I'm going to start off with a check, and he does bet big. He pots it at $55. This is alarm bells. I'm going to call one street, and I'm probably just going to try my best not to level myself into thinking he's a reg and I need to call down. So I call. Luckily, the turn is ace. So we got top 2. I check it over to him, and he checks back fairly quickly. So I'm really confident he's got pocket kings now, just based on his 2 sizings here. We're off to a river, which is 3 of clubs. Now I want to choose a sizing that puts pocket kings into a tough spot. I think that would be about $200 here. And I really like using a just slightly over bet pot. But I haven't played enough with him yet to know that he can't have pocket aces or pocket jacks here and check back the turn. So I just don't think his range is defined enough for me to want to use those larger sizings. Once I play with him a bit more, I'm more than happy to use $200 here. So I pick a sizing of 135, planning to most likely fold to a raise. And he tosses in the call almost instantly. And he shows us, yeah, pocket kings. So very happy with my reads on point, even though I've only played with him for like 2 hours. So this hand is against a pretty aggressive reg. He seems to be quite a solid player, but his pre-flop is very loose. I've seen him like limp a lot. I don't think he's losing too much on his limp, so because he plays very well post-flop. He's very aggressive, good at attacking small spots, and using lots of large sizings. So he'll be the under the gun +2 player in this hand. Button straddles on, he limps, so does a mid position player. We've got ace jack suited. We're going to make it $50 to go. Button folds, and both the limpers make the call. So off to a flop, which isn't great for our range, 10-8-7, planning to check this back at very high frequency, but the aggressive player actually leads here for 1/3 pot. I really like this play. It makes a lot of sense. I think he knows what he's doing here. But with a gut shot, backdoor flush draw, and 2 overs, we're definitely calling versus a player like this who's leading for a small range. So we're going to call and evaluate turn. Turn's okay, it's queen of spades, so we pick up a double gut shot. Thinks for a bit and then checks it over to us. And here, I think we want to go polarized. I don't think we can go for a small bet size here. We're just going to get check raised a lot. We need to polarize. And I think this hand makes quite a bit of sense. The double gut shot, not really too much showdown value. So I size up here to 175. 175? I thought I went bigger than this. Okay, I like more in like the 200 range, but I think 175 is okay as well. He doesn't think for too long and folds. So pretty sweet to get that one through. Alright, we have 9-7 of clubs under the gun +1. This is probably too loose of an open, but we didn't come to the casino to fold. So we open up to $20, folds around to the button who makes the call, and the big blind, who's a player from the last hand, also makes the call. So off to a pretty decent flop. Ace 6-3, so we got a backdoor straight, backdoor gut shot. Or sorry, backdoor gut shot. No, backdoor straight, backdoor flush draw. Checks to us, and I think we can take this down pretty often on the flop with a small bet. So I do go ahead and bet $20. Button gets out the way, but big blind sticks around. So looking for some help on the turn. It does sort of come, the 10 of spades. When he checks it over to us, he's only got like 340 behind. So I still want to keep betting here. And I think it makes more sense to use a junky hand like this because he's quite short, like 340. We don't want to bet a hand like 9-7 of spades and then get jammed on and have to fold a hand like that. That would be a disaster. So I quite like this as a bluff, using these hands that don't care if they get raised, they get jammed on. So I go ahead and overbet to 135, but he pretty quickly folds, so decent result. Alright, for our final hand, we have pocket aces again. Under the gun, +1 has limped. We're going to raise this up to 25. Cutoff makes a call, and so does the limper. So, 3 ways to a really gross flop. 10-9-5, 2 hearts. We don't have a heart in our hand. Checks it to us. I'm just going to go ahead and check back here. This flop, we could get put in a really bad spot in this flop. So, check it over to cutoff, who also checks back. So, off to a turn, which is the 8 of hearts. Under the gun player checks again. We're just going to check this back once again as a terrible turn. And cutoff goes ahead and bets $50. Pretty sizable bet here, but we're not going to fold just to 1 bet against this player. This is the player from the pocket kings versus ace queen hand that we got some value on the river. So, we make the call, looking for a blank river. King of spades. Pretty good river. We check it over to him, and he bets 130. So it's a pretty polarized bet. At first, I just want to snap fold this, but I think it threw a bit more. And we're pretty scared of 6-7 and pocket 8s. But this player is also really loose, and I don't believe that he doesn't bet queen jack on the flop or a flush draw. Like, he's definitely betting those hands. But again, pocket aces no heart is probably the worst call we can have, besides hands like pocket 4s, 3s, and 2s. We don't block any 2 pairs, any sets, any straights, any flushes. Like, this hand sucks to call. Pocket queens, pocket jacks would be better. Ace 10 would be better. Ace 9 would be better here. But I don't know. Just something feels off. His value range is a bit too narrow, and I think that he's going to be over bluffing here a bit. So I do toss in the call here, and he shows the 5-6 of hearts. Pretty creative bluff, but it is not going to get through this time.
Wow, what a session that was. We only played for a total of maybe 2.5 hours. We played 1-3 for half an hour, and then they opened the 2-5. We were in for 600, out for 539 for a loss of 61. Took our $541-ish over to 2-5, jumped into that, and after 2 hours of play, cashed out for $1,803 for a win of $1,259. Unreal. That's going to bring the bankroll from $3,955 up to, I think it's 5,163. Future Sam will edit it and put it here. that's gonna wrap up episode 16. Feeling really good about 2-5. I can love overbetting so much. I'll see you guys in the next one.